Good morning, and welcome into Pigskin with Pancakes. I'm the host, Paige Dimakos, here with Chris Schubert, and we are talking about fantasy football. That's right, lots to talk about, injuries, updates, sit or start, who we like, who we don't. We're helping you set your lineup because we all know you need help this morning. You're probably drinking coffee, just like us.
Yep.
Okay, so just sit along with us. Let's help you set your lineup, and hopefully we can all go to victory.
Hey Paige, do you notice there's somebody missing from the set today?
There is somebody
It's a little
missing.
bit more roomy, a little bit more comfy here today without Jamie Eisner hanging out with us.
See, here's the thing you should all know. Chris feels more like the star today.
Yeah, I mean, I got my own couch. I get to hang out here by myself.
Like
I feel like a big deal.
He's hoping that Jamie just doesn't come back from California and that he can just continue to host this show with me. Correct?
Yeah, he will be back for next week's show.
Yeah,
so
next
this
week's
is going to
show.
be a short-lived run of me having the couch to myself.
But Chris does feel like the star today, which is always.
Yeah, there he is. There you can
Jamie.
see. There's Jamie. He's over there.
Look at Jamie.
Yep, there he is. He's over there.
He looks like he's having a really great time in California. So that's the live look at Jamie.
Okay.
But Chris. Overall thoughts heading into week 2, and then we'll get into our quarterback poll, which you can find on Twitter.
Yeah, I think that's the big topic of conversation this week. I think it's a big week for quarterbacks. I think when you look at some of the different matchups this week, it is very conducive for a lot of points for some quarterbacks. Some injuries are going to play into effect this week where the quarterbacks are going to be able to put up a lot of points. So there are a lot of names I'm looking out for. There's one name that I'm trying to see whether or not he's going to play this week.
Yeah.
Does it look like he is? We'll get into him a little bit later, but quarterbacks are who I'm keeping my eye on this week.
Yeah, quarterbacks. So let's get to the QB poll, okay?
Ooh,
we put together
QB poll.
Taylor, who's behind the camera, put together an amazing graphic.
I love a good poll.
Okay, we love a good poll. Who is the best quarterback in the league right now, and who is going to score the most points this week? Okay,
so you're asking this in terms of a fantasy perspective?
Yes.
Okay.
Fantasy only.
And keeping it in the context of this week?
Yes.
This is interesting. Brady, really good matchup against New Orleans, and not a very good defense.
Okay.
Derek Carr, probably a favorable matchup. The Jets' defense is better than people give it credit for, but it's going to be out there a ton, so I think that's good for Derek Carr. Russell Wilson, the 49ers don't have Reuben Foster. I think that's a good thing for Russell Wilson. And Aaron Rodgers going up against the Falcons, and we know those two teams can score points on each other. So in terms of points this week, all four of these guys are going to give you a lot of points.
But who is going to?
Who's my favorite?
Yeah, who? Because we all know there's a reason we put this together this week. These are 4 great quarterbacks, 4 elite quarterbacks.
Yes.
Would you say?
It's one of my favorite terms. Yes.
All three of those 4 guys won Super Bowls. Okay, and the new hot rosé, should we say, is Derek Carr. If you haven't seen Whining with Whiners, you should definitely watch that on our YouTube channel. That's a plug. All right, but Derek Carr is the hot guy right now. So of those 4 guys, who is going to score the most fantasy football points this week? Because I have a feeling I want to lean towards one.
Yeah,
but I'm also it's a tough week to pick.
It's down to 2 for me.
Okay.
It's down to either Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. And why? Because these are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. Aaron Rodgers thrives under the big lights, thrives under the pressure of Sunday Night Football. And I think when you look at Tom Brady, there's this case of he's angry. And when he's angry, he puts up a lot of points. So I'm going to lean Brady. I'm going to take Brady this week. I think he's angry. I think he's annoyed. I think he's just going to go off this week with Brandon Cooks, who's going to want to have a big game being back in New Orleans. So I'll go Brady.
Okay, you go Brady. I'm going to go differently because I just got to be different.
Are you going to take Rodgers?
Yeah, I'm taking
You're
Rodgers.
a Bears fan on the set, and
Listen,
you talk about Rodgers like he's the greatest thing ever. Is it allowed?
Listen,
I need my Bears fans out there to go after Paige.
I'm a Bears fan, and it pains me to say.
Paige, you say it every week. Every week.
Here's the thing: I have eyes. I can see. I understand that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league, okay? It pains me to say it, but my eyes work, so I can watch what happens every week. And Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league. His entire offense is healthy. What's going to happen this week? He's in the Dome. He's against the Atlanta Falcons. Neither of these teams...
They're not known for defense.
No, I think the last 2 times I have a stat that they put up 63 combined points in their 2 matchups last year. So what does that mean? That means a lot of offensive points. That means a lot of touchdowns. That means Aaron Rodgers is putting up big fantasy points. I like all 4 of these quarterbacks matchups this week.
Oh, absolutely. It's very favorable.
I love Rodgers.
And I think the other thing when you look at the specific Rodgers matchup is he's got all those weapons healthy too.
For sure.
Ty Montgomery's there, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson. Everybody's healthy, and that helps him when he has the targets that he trusts and he believes in under the pressure of going on the road, because it's a loud environment. They're opening up that stadium today, so he's going to have a big performance if they're going to win. And while the Falcons defense I think is better than people think, it's not enough to keep Aaron Rodgers off the board at least a couple of times, and that's all you need in fantasy.
No, and it's Sunday Night Football. You know everyone comes to play under the lights. It should be a good one, but we'll get into that game later. The first matchup we're getting into is the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens.
This is a good one.
Yeah,
I like this one.
Yeah, although probably ahead of the season we would have said a real stinker, but now that we've seen these teams play, Cleveland showed us something. Deshaun Kaiser showed us something. But we're getting the fantasy aspect of this, and I like what Kaiser showed in Week 1. But I'm not starting him in Week 2.
No, absolutely not. I think Deshaun Kaiser is a guy that you have to wait and see. If you're in a dynasty league, he's a guy that you could really, maybe hold on to while you have another quarterback and see what ends up happening with him. But I think what you really need to look for this week is some of the other skill players on the Cleveland Browns. Isaiah Crowell, Corey Coleman are two big examples of players who I think can have really big games this week. Corey Coleman worries me a little bit more than Isaiah Crowell. Crowell last week against Pittsburgh, 79% of snaps in Week 1. So he's out there. He's going to be out on the field. He's going to be getting touches, so he's involved in the offense. Now, Corey Coleman, on the other hand, only targeted 6 times in Week 1. My only concern about that is he's probably going to be the lead target there in Cleveland. But when you're only targeted 6 times, if we see what happens in Cleveland, what happened in Houston on Thursday night, where they try to simple the offense for their rookie quarterback, then does Deshaun Kaiser run the ball a little bit more? Does he not throw it to his big receiver down the field? Does he try to get the tight end involved? If they try to simplify that offense, it may cause problems for a big receiver threat like Corey Coleman.
Yeah, and overall, when you're looking at this Cleveland team, there's not much this week that you like because of the Ravens defense, but I am flexing both Crowell and Coleman. I feel confident doing that this week. But let's move on to Baltimore.
Okay.
Let's see what we like there. When I look at our friends over at the Fantasy Doctor Analytics.com, they have Joe Flacco as the 21st rated quarterback this week. What does that mean? If you're in a 2-quarterback league, you feel confident starting him in a QB2 spot. But he's not a QB1 this week and should definitely – he's not even flirting with the QB1 this week, okay?
No.
Joe Flacco's coming back from a serious injury. He still hasn't shown that he can throw the ball. It looks like he's in a lot of pain. So Flacco is not a guy you feel confident starting. In a QB2 spot, sure, you go to him in a QB2 spot. But when you look at the other offensive players around him, Chris, who do you like this week to start?
On the Ravens side of things, I don't like really a whole lot of anybody. And here's why. In Joe Flacco, in terms of his matchups the first couple weeks of the season, he's got a couple favorable ones, especially this week in particular. When you look at weeks 1 and 3 for him, he's facing what are considered tough matchups via fantasypros.com. We're in Cincinnati and Jacksonville. This week is that middle ground. This is an opportunity for maybe him to have a big game. But when you look at the wide receivers in Week 1 against Cincinnati, no Baltimore receiver saw more than 4 targets.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room for guys to get touches in this offense, and there's some injuries here that are going to play a factor this week. So from a Baltimore perspective, they're going to rely on their defense and their running game. So in the passing game, I don't like anybody to have a huge breakout performance. Like, Jeremy Maclin's going to be out there. You're going to expect him to be the big guy, but if no Baltimore receiver is going to see more than 4 touches, and a lot of these numbers that we're talking about are very small sample sizes. It's 1 week. So we need to build this up. But in Week 1 against Cincinnati, where you can probably air the ball out a little bit more, they weren't able to do that, and you didn't see a Baltimore receiver get more than 4 targets. I think that's a little bit concerning if you have a guy like Jeremy Maclin on your team this week.
Okay, I got some stats for you.
I love when we bring statistics to the table.
Joe Flacco, coming back from a back injury, attempted only 3 passes of 10 or more yards. 0 of them were completed. What does that mean?
That's the problem.
You're not starting any of their wide receivers. I don't care. I like Maclin, but I'm not starting him because I don't feel confident. Now, when we go to the running backs on that team, they tied for the league leading in 42 rushes last week. What does that mean? You know they're going to get the ball. You feel confident doing that. So that means I'm going to flex both Allen and West. I like both of them. Why? If you're in a PPR league, you like this. You like Allen this week because he is going to come out of the backfield. He is going to get those short passes, and that is what Flacco's going to be able to do in this offense because he's not going to be going down the field. He's going to be utilizing these running backs, and he's going to be utilizing Allen, especially in a two-down back. He's going to be using him not only to rush the ball, but to catch passes out of the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a dink-and-dunk offense in Baltimore until Joe Flacco really finds himself in terms of his injury. And when I look at this, West and Allen are 2 plays where if you aren't sure about an injury somewhere else in fantasy, that you can maybe play one of these guys and have a little bit more confidence in because they're going to be used in the offense. And I like Terrence Wentz a lot this week because he was the featured guy last week and really saw a lot of the carries there. So I'm really high on him. I think he's a guy that if you're looking for a running back too, maybe a flex, you can have him this week depending on your situation. Can we talk about the Ravens defense this week?
Yeah,
I think this is a must play against a rookie quarterback because despite all the good things we just talked about with Deshaun Kaiser looking good in Week 1, with some of the pieces there playing well, I still think a good Ravens defense, an elite Ravens defense, in my opinion, that has that good secondary, that's fully healthy, is going to make it very troublesome for Deshaun Kaiser. You could see a lot of sacks.
Yep. You
could see a lot of turnovers, and that's what you're looking for in your defense. I think this is a favorable matchup for the Ravens defense. They're home this week as well. That's a huge factor.
Yeah, the thing with Baltimore this week is they're at home against a rookie quarterback with not a lot to like offensively. So that's what you do this week. The Ravens are a must start when they're at home. But the quick injury update for this team, Danny Woodhead is on IR, which means he cannot return until week 8 is the earliest. So that means Buck Allen and Terrence West's value both go up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it means.
Absolutely. Those are two guys that you're going to try to keep an eye on. If you don't have them on your team this week, but you want to keep an eye on, these are two guys that I think you should keep an eye on, especially in a Ravens offense. It's probably going to favor the run a little bit more with the way that they play in the passing game.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay attention to that. Let's move on to the second matchup of the weekend, and that's the Chicago Bears traveling to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, this is our first opportunity to see this offense.
Yeah, this is guesswork. I mean, this is really guesswork with this team this week because you just don't know what they're going to have. From the Chicago side of things, there's a lot to dissect here because I think there's a lot of just looking at what the eye test tells you, and the numbers give you a little bit of a different look of who's going to see maybe some more of the touches in this offense. But yeah, this is an interesting one for me. I really like this. You want to start with the Chicago running backs?
Yeah, let's start with the Chicago running backs. So let's go to Jordan Howard, okay? So we look at Jordan Howard this week. He's supposed to be the featured back. Reminds me of last year when Jeremy Langford was supposed to be the featured back, and Jordan Howard ended up taking away some of those touches. Now, that doesn't mean Jordan Howard's not a starter this week, but he does have an injury issue, and Tariq Cohen did take some touches away from him.
So I want everyone to look at this graphic that's up on the screen right now because Jordan Howard had 38 snaps in week 1 in the regular season.
Yes.
We're going to show you what Tariq Cohen did last week, but I want you to keep an eye on that 38 snaps number because Jordan Howard had more of the featured looks last week against that game against they played the Atlanta Falcons. I almost forgot who they played for a second.
They played the Falcons.
He had more of the snaps, and that touch percentage is also important because that gives you a little bit of an inclination of when they're out on the field, how often they're touching the ball, whether it's in the running game or whether it's catching a pass out of the backfield. So those two numbers combined give you more of a complete picture of what Jordan Howard is going to be able to produce in this offense. And these are some really good numbers. And when you compare these side by side with Tariq Cohen, it's a little bit closer than people think.
Yeah, let's go to the Tariq Cohen graphic, Nico. Show it to us. All right, so we're going to look at Tariq Cohen. He's the other running back in that situation, okay? He is the guy that's coming out of the backfield. So what happens here is that he is taking over this kind of Matt Forte-esque thing that the Bears had going, where he's not only the running back, he's coming out of the backfield and he's catching passes. You saw them go to him deep downfield. If he goes for 70 yards and a touchdown he's getting running back time, this is huge. And this is a guy you must look at when they have Cameron Meredith out, Kevin White out, Bellamy's not playing. They literally do not have a wide receiving core. They do not have wide receivers.
Yeah, their two running backs are going to be really heavily involved in their passing game. But the reason why we brought those two statistics and kind of put them side by side is Tariq Cohen didn't get as many snaps as Jordan Howard last week, but he had more fantasy production. So when I look at Tariq Cohen, do I maybe worry about how many big plays he had that maybe skewed his fantasy numbers a little bit to, where he had 25.3 compared to Jordan Howard's 15.6 in a PPR league? Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that. But when I look at these two guys, there's nobody else in this Bears offense that can really do anything. So they're both going to be heavily involved one way or the other. My concern here is I don't know if either of these guys can establish themselves as a running back one just yet. I need to see it from them a little bit more. I need to see how this offense is going to function. I need to see their usage on more than a 1 week basis. I don't want to overreact to a 1 week sample size, but these are two guys that you must play in your lineup. Don't worry if you're a Jordan Howard owner. Don't worry about Tariq Cohen that much. Jordan Howard's going to get his touches. And if you're a Tariq Cohen owner, don't worry that much about Jordan Howard because in this Bears offense where there's not a whole lot of talent, they're both going to see different roles and different touch looks, and I think it's good for both of them.
And especially if you got Tariq Cohen, you got him in a value spot.
Absolutely.
Okay? If you drafted him, you valued him, unless you're a Bears fan and you reached for him, it's likely that you got him in a valuable position. My thing with Tariq Cohen over Jordan Howard is if you are in a PPR league, you're going to give the slight edge to Tariq Cohen just because he's going to get more receptions. He's going to be the guy that puts up those points. So that's something to pay attention to. If you have both of those guys, you're starting both of them. But if you are in a PPR league, I give the slight edge to Cohen just because of what he can do overall as a back. Okay, let's get to Tampa Bay because there's a lot to like here offensively, especially this matchup against the Chicago Bears. My only hesitation this week, Chris, is I haven't seen them play. They did not play week 1, and now we're looking at this matchup going, okay, what are we going to see from this team, especially because there is that kind of storyline of Mike Glennon and some revenge factor. I don't buy into it. I'm
really.
A Bears fan, and I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy into that too much. But here, it's our first look for this Bucs team. So who are you're gonna gravitate towards? You're gonna gravitate toward Jameis Winston. You're gonna gravitate toward Mike Evans. There's a guy on this Tampa Bay team that I really like because I look at who had success last week against the Bears for the Falcons. And that was
this
Taylor
is my
Gabriel.
stat. I love it.
Taylor Gabriel had a really nice performance last week as the slot receiver. So who does that bode well for in the Tampa Bay offense? Deshaun Jackson. He's going to be the guy you're going to see in that role. So if they're going to try to take away the number one like they did with Julio Jones, if they do that with Mike Evans, that's going to open up opportunities for Deshaun Jackson, they have Godwin as well. They got a couple of guys there that can really maybe have big games that you're not expecting to. So Deshaun Jackson's a guy that I would keep an eye on for if he is available.
Okay, so this is how you need to know about the Bears. They sell out defensively to the number one overall guy. What does that mean? They're going to try and take away Mike Evans. So what does that mean for your fantasy? Now, I'm not telling you not to start Mike Evans.
You're starting Mike Evans.
You're starting Mike Evans. But you are starting Deshaun Jackson this week because he is going to be the beneficiary of the fact that Mike Evans is going to be followed all week. And the Bears did shut down Julio Jones last week. He did not have a good week because they sold out to the number one overall guy. And they want to make you beat them somewhere else. So you feel very confident starting Deshaun Jackson.
The other thing I would add to that is everyone's kind of looking at the performance of Julio Jones and maybe the Falcons overall. They weren't on the turf. They have a little bit more team speed when they're on turf. They were on the road in Chicago. It's a little bit different when they're in their home environment in the Dome. So this week, Tampa's home. They're on their home field. They understand what works for them there. So I think Mike Evans will have a better game than Julio Jones did in week one against the Bears.
I also like Mike Evans just overall.
I mean, Mike Evans is my fourth best wide receiver in all of football based on pure talent, and in fantasy, he's going to be a big target.
Okay, so you look at Jacquizz Rodgers this week.
This is a guy I like.
This is a guy you like, but I want to give you some stats here. Okay, the Bears could be a tough matchup. They're coming off giving up only 2.65 yards per carry to Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, a very, very good running back tandem. That doesn't mean he's not a guy that you're starting.
No.
I just don't feel confident putting him in an RB1 or an RB2 spot. I put him in a flex spot.
Yeah, he's absolutely one of those sneaky flex plays this week. He's not a running back one because you just don't know in that Tampa Bay offense what exactly they're going to use their running backs to do, really. And he's not a running back two because I just don't think he can reach that ceiling. But he's a flex play where if he reaches that ceiling, he's going to give you more than you expect out of your flex spot. And I really think for the first couple of weeks here in Tampa Bay, he's the featured guy.
For sure.
He's
going
to be. Charles Sims is not a thing. Let's stop trying to make him a thing.
Charles Sims is not a thing.
Doug Martin's not a thing. Let's not try to make him a thing as well. Jacquizz Rodgers is a guy, you want to talk about a revenge game. I mean, he wants to really show that Atlanta gave up on him. He wants to really play well here against the Chicago Bears. He wants to show to the rest of the NFC that, hey, you should have picked me up. You should have signed me after Atlanta got rid of me. So he takes every one of these games for him as a revenge game. This is a huge breakout chance for him. Doug Martin's suspended. He was passed on by so many other teams. He kind of was fortunate that Tampa picked him up. So we talk about that revenge game narrative. Every week's a revenge game for Jacquizz Rodgers as he tries to reestablish himself in the NFL.
All right, let's get to start and sit here with Jordan Howard, okay? Because I want to look at this matchup and say, okay, I need the latest injury update on Jordan Howard, and I want to make sure we're looking at this because I love Jordan Howard every week to start, but he did have an injury. I will give you the latest update, and that is that he's expected to play this week. So you feel confident 100% starting Jordan Howard this week.
This is a start if he's 100% healthy, or if he's at least going to play. You can't afford to put him on your bench and kind of wait this out. But so if all the injury updates say that he's expected to play, I think you have no concern putting him in there. He will get touches. He may even see more touches than Tariq Cohen does, and that's probably a good thing for you if he's out there close to the goal line. I think he'll see a lot of touches there, which is huge.
Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen are must-starts.
Both of them are.
Yeah, we like both of those guys. Now, moving on to the next matchup, that's Minnesota Vikings at Pittsburgh Steelers. The Minnesota Vikings offense really surprised a lot of people last week. They were very good. Overall, like every position player was a must-start. There's a big wild card this week. Sam Bradford, it was reported that he left the field with some pain in his knee.
Yeah, this morning he was supposed to test that knee out. That had
did not go well.
Been the big question mark all week. How would his knee respond? They were a little worried about it. Case Keenum is their backup. He's the guy that will start if something does happen to Sam Bradford. And Sam Bradford went out there to test it this morning, and it appears based on what we're reading here on Twitter.
That's my overall feeling for this Minnesota Vikings offense of Case Keenum.
It's just that. Yeah.
You're not feeling good about this.
No, you're not. There's one guy in
this.
particular that I feel really great about. We'll get to him when we talk about Minnesota. a little bit more. But for Sam Bradford, looked like he tested the knee, didn't go all that great, wasn't a very extensive test, looked like he walked off the field. So if you have Sam Bradford this week, you need to very quickly get on your league site and maybe make a change this week because Sam Bradford's not going to play.
Yeah, he's not going to play, and I think one of the guys.
And even if he does play, I'm very worried about that knee.
You should be worried about him. Dr. Salim Parekh, who does stuff for us at the Fantasy Doctors, he is a doctor. Okay, so I tend to listen to
medical professional.
Medical professional. The thing with Sam Bradford's injury is that he had the ACL tear, so he's having pain in that same knee.
It's the same knee. It's the same left knee that he's had 2 previous ACL injuries.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. And Parekh said that even if he does start, it's a big concern because if his knee is really giving him some trouble,
mobility.
The mobility is not there at
all.
No
mobility. You would be a little bit more optimistic with the way the offensive line played in week 1, but you can't expect him to have enough time to throw the deep ball down the field with that knee. I don't even think he's going to play, based on what we're seeing on the internet. So I think when you look at this week, Sam Bradford's definitely a sick. Can we talk about the Steelers for a second?
No, let's finish with the Vikings. So the only guy you like this week is Cook.
There's one guy. It is Dalvin Cook. Do you want to know why?
Break your stats
Last week, again, in that Monday night game against the New Orleans Saints, and again, New Orleans Saints, not a very good defense, so these numbers may be misleading.
Doesn't matter. He's still a rookie.
78.5% of the time that the Vikings were on the field, so was Dalvin Cook. Nearly 80% of the time that they were on offense, Dalvin Cook was out there. Then, of that 80%, 49% of the time he touched the football in some way. He is the workhorse in this offense. He's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's going to rush the ball. He rushed it 22 times in week 1. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He does everything. So if you're looking at this matchup for Dalvin Cook, he's going to be out on the field. He's going to touch the football. And now that Sam Bradford is out, Case Keenum is not a good quarterback. Do not start him this week. That means they're going to rely on the running game. That means even more opportunities for Dalvin Cook. I wouldn't be surprised if both of these numbers went up this week. Dalvin Cook is a must-play. If you are somebody who owns Dalvin Cook and people are giving you trade offers for, you need to make sure you get good value. If you're somebody out there that needs a running back 2, maybe a back-end running back 1, go out and get Dalvin Cook because I think these numbers are going to stay throughout the season. He's going to be the focal point of this offense.
Yeah, the issue here with other than Dalvin Cook, so I love Stephon Diggs.
But not this week.
Yeah, I do not like this offense. That's something you need to pay attention to because if they're not playing, you got to look out for you got to find somebody else to put in your matchup because Case Keenum is beyond what a wild card is.
One other guy.
You know that he's not a guy who can get this done offensively, and Pittsburgh is going to dominate offensively now that I know that Bradford's not going to be
There's
playing.
one other guy that I may think's a little bit of a better play because when you are a average or below average quarterback, you tend to lean on this position a little bit more.
The tight
end, and it's Kyle Rudolph because I think he's not going to be able to take those deep shots. Maybe the offensive line gives him some protection, and it was good in week 1, but I don't think he's going to really throw the ball deep down the field. It's going to be a lot of checkdowns.
The Saints pass rush is not the Pittsburgh Steelers pass.
No, they're going to. T.J. Watt had a really good debut, so T.J. Watt's going to be able to get after the quarterback a little bit better than anything the Saints were able to do. So it's going to be a lot of checkdowns, a lot of short passing routes, and that's maybe better for an Adam Thielen type as well.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if I can trust Case Keenum enough to get enough to those boundary targets in Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. It's going to be the interior targets, Dalvin Cook out of the backfield and Kyle Rudolph. Those are the only 2 guys I would even consider playing. Cook's a must start. Rudolph's maybe a close to game time decision how your team shapes out.
Yeah, you just got to pay attention to what Bradford's doing. Obviously, that report comes out from early this morning, but you better have a backup quarterback ready to go because it doesn't look like Bradford's going to be starting. Now let's go to the Steelers offensively.
I love this.
I love the Steelers offensively. Why do I love the Steelers offensively? Because the 60 offensive snaps.
This is one of my favorite statistics.
This is unreal. Okay, what the Pittsburgh Steelers are able to do at home is it's not touchable. It's really Big Ben is just. I don't like to buy into storylines.
No.
But storylines that have statistics backed up with them, Big Ben is a different quarterback when he's at home.
Much better at home. And, Big Ben's obviously the guy you're going to start this week. But you were talking about the 60 offensive snaps from last week. Only 2 receivers on the Steelers saw more than 50 snaps of those 60. Obviously, number 1 was Antonio Brown. And number 2, Martavis Bryant. And this is why Martavis Bryant is a sneaky good play this week because he's going to establish himself as the number 2 wide receiver. So when you look at this offense, a lot of defenses are going to pay a lot of attention to Antonio Brown, which means that Martavis Bryant can emerge himself as a wide receiver 2. And he saw the second most targets last week as well. He saw 6 of them. So he's going to see those touches. So Martavis Bryant's a guy that I really like this week.
All right, just a question that comes in from Twitter.
Oh, I love the Twitter questions.
I'm monitoring Twitter as this is going on. Tim on Twitter wants to know, with the probability of Sam Bradford sitting out, do I start Dalvin Cook or Tariq Cohen? This is an easy one for me. lock and load Tariq Cohen.
Really?
Lock and load Tariq Cohen, because if Sam Bradford is out, I know you like Dalvin Cook and I like him too, but if they are behind, which they're going to be, guess what they're going to do? They're going to try and throw the ball. They're not going to be running the ball. And I like Dalvin Cook, but I do not. I still think you should start Dalvin Cook. But if you have the option to start either one, I'm starting Tariq Cohen over Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a really top tier running back like a Le'Veon Bell in your running back one spot, and this is who you're debating for your number 2 spot, I think it is a tough decision. But I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook. I'll stand by what I said earlier. He's going to see a lot of the snaps in this offense. He's going to see a lot of the touches in this offense. And with Case Keenum starting and not Sam Bradford, you're going to see a very heavy usage of the running game. Yeah. And I think that's big things for Dalvin Cook. One other thing. Xavier Rhodes is going to be the guy that's going to be covering Antonio Brown today, which means Martavis Bryant's not going to have the number 1 corner on him, and I think this is just a huge day for him. I really do.
It's a huge day. It's always a good day for Antonio Brown, and Bryant I think is going to be huge this game. I love this stat. Big Ben at home. For fantasy football purposes, he averages nearly 7 points more at home, which is a huge deal. 7 points is a lot when most fantasy matchups are between 2 and 3 points that you lose. And twice as many passing touchdowns at home. That is huge numbers.
And he's just better at home.
Numbers.
He's just better at home. I don't know what it is for him. He's been in the league long enough to where you'd think he'd figure out how to play better on the road. He just can't. He just can't do it. So you have him in a home matchup this week against the Minnesota Vikings team it's dealt a huge blow if they're not going to have Sam Bradford. It's not good, and I think Pittsburgh is going to really have a better time with this game than I think people expected, let's say on Tuesday.
And one thing that I want to get to quickly, because I love the Vikings defense, but I'm not starting them this week. Because of all the things,
they're on the field a lot.
Of all the things that we just said, I checked Twitter, and it does say that Case Keenum is going to be starting.
So they're going to be on the field a lot. Yeah, they're just going to be on the field a lot.
And to accumulate fantasy points, there has to be turnovers, there has to be sacks, there has to be you're not getting scored on.
No.
Guess what happens when Pittsburgh's at home? They score a lot of points.
They can grind the clock too. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, you're not going to want to start the Vikings defense when usually you're starting them every other week. This is just not a matchup that you like. All right. Next game.
Offense. Just offense. The offense is just the subject of this game. Play anyone who plays offense for either of these two teams.
Yeah, New England and the New Orleans Saints.
Offense. They're going to score 130 points. I'm convinced. I don't know how either of these teams stop each other. Can you honestly tell me that after what New England did against Kansas City in Week 1, that you're confident that they're going to stop the Saints?
No, this is whatever the point total is on this game, over.
Yeah, because 130. I mean, they're going to score. It's going to be a track meet. They're just up and down.
They're just going to go back and forth.
Tom Brady's annoyed. Tom Brady's upset.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not great.
We always say we don't buy into storylines, but here's the reality. Tom Brady is a guy who is petty. Okay? Which I can appreciate because I'm very petty. Okay? The guy's had a chip on his shoulder. He's been in the league for over 15 years, and the guy still plays with the chip on his shoulder. Okay? It's unbelievable. So what do I love about this game? Like you said, start everybody. I love offense, except for the defenses. Do not play either one of these defenses.
Interestingly enough, I saw something on Twitter this morning that the Patriots are dressing 3 tight ends today.
Interesting.
Which means they may be trying to help Gronk a little bit, keep him a little bit more fresh so he doesn't have injuries. So that's something to monitor. It's only 1 week. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out. You obviously play Gronk because he's healthy and he can go off for those big games. But everyone knows I'm a big fan of Dwayne Allen in this offense. I think he's an underrated tight end target. And Rob Gronkowski's going to get hurt at some point, so Dwayne Allen's a good play anyway. But they are going to have 3 tight ends this week, so interested to see how they use that. You have a really interesting statistic about Tom Brady that I want you to get to.
I love. Tom Brady hasn't had back-to-back games without 0 passing touchdowns since what year? 2006.
That's 11 years ago for anyone who can't do quick math. It's been 11 years since Tom Brady has gone 2 consecutive games without throwing a passing touchdown.
I was a sophomore in high school.
You were a sophomore in high school, 2006.
I was a sophomore in high school.
I was not in high school yet at that point.
When Tom Brady.
Middle school.
Yeah, I've been out of college for a couple of years now. That just tells you. I was a sophomore in high school the last time that Tom Brady did not throw a passing touchdown after he had a game. What does that mean? Tom's going to have a big game.
And
the New Orleans Saints defense is not good. They just made Sam Bradford in that offense look like Heisman Sam Bradford.
They were pretty good. They played pretty well in that game, the Minnesota offense. Something else that I think factors into this, if Tom Brady is going to be able to have that big game and pass the ball through the air, I think this means something for the running game of the New England Patriots. Because last week, James White and Mike Gillislee, these are the 2 guys that everyone likes to keep their eye on because of the way Gillislee played in Week 1. James White saw more of the snaps in Week 1, 43 compared to 24. But Gillislee got a higher percentage of touches when he was out there, 63% compared to 30%. So when you look at this, James White was out there more, but Gillislee, when he was out there, saw more touches, which screams to me, goal line, he's going to see a lot of touches, and that's where they're going to use him a lot. But James White's going to be the between the 20s guy, and that's where he's going to have a big game. So I would stay away from Gillislee just because I think he had some of the higher leverage touches. How often do we think that New England's going to be in the red zone? Because if they're going to air it out with Tom Brady, they may have some big plays with Brendan Cooks or Gronk or any of those guys, which may take away from some of their running game this week.
The only confidence I have with this running back crew is that Gillislee could potentially be the goal line guy. They're just not going to run the ball. They're going to throw the ball all day long. Yeah. This screams a 5-touchdown day for Tom Brady where he's throwing the ball through the air. And you know how I am with New England running backs. I hate them.
I just don't trust Bill Belichick.
You never know what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. So if you're counting on James White or Rex Burkhead or Mike Gillislee to be your guy,
you're going to end up on your team sucks sooner or later.
Yeah, you're going to end up on your team sucks.
And that's on you.
Yeah, that is on you. But you definitely start Brandon Cooks this week. He took the most. He was targeted the most last week, and he's at home. For him, his traditional, this is where he played with New Orleans for a very long time. They're back home in the Dome. He's definitely going to get a lot of touches this week.
Can I bring up a Saints player that I think is under the radar?
Ooh, okay. Week? I like it.
Ted
under the radar.
Ginn.
Okay.
Do you want to know why? Because there's no Willie Steen in this offense yet. He's still hurt. And there needs to be a number 2 after Michael Thomas because Michael Thomas is going to get a blanket put on him by the number 1 corner each and every week. So he needs to find some other target, Drew Brees does. He needs to find some other target, and in this case, it's going to be Willie Snead. Not Willie Snead, Ted Ginn, excuse me. I think Ted Ginn's going to have another big game. I thought he had a good game in week 1, kind of establishing himself in this offense. And now here in week 2, I think Drew Brees is really going to want to try to find. We know what's been going on with Adrian Peterson this week, the back and forth that they've had. Adrian Peterson and Sean Payton, how does he get used this week? I really think that Ted Ginn is a nice play to catch those balls over the middle in a PPR league. I think he's going to get targeted a lot, those pick up the first down type throws. So I like Ted Ginn this week.
Yeah. Here's another stat for you about the QBs.
Love the statistics.
Brees is the only quarterback with a 100-plus passer rating against Bill Belichick
Sounds
defenses
about right.
with minimum 100 attempts. What does that mean? Drew Brees is unstoppable, okay? It doesn't matter what team you throw at him, the guy is going to put up offensive numbers, and he's the only guy for a reason because Bill Belichick defenses traditionally do not give up a lot of points. I know they made Alex Smith look really great, but that's a very small sample size. Drew Brees is going to get his. That's what that means.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other part of this offense that I absolutely hate, I hate.
Oh.
Their running back crew.
Yeah. They're together.
Their running back situation, or whatever you want to call it, is awful. It's a complete and total mess. Adrian Peterson is yelling at Sean Payton on the sidelines. You shouldn't have drafted Adrian Peterson, but you're definitely not starting Adrian Peterson. The only thing that you can possibly like here is Kamara gets the most amount of touches. The rookie comes in. That's why Adrian Peterson was very upset. This isn't an offense that runs the ball. So you can't feel very confident about Mark Ingram or Alvin Kamara. But if you are starting somebody, I'm putting Kamara in a flex position, and I'm still not in love with it.
Not happy
I'm
with that
still
at
not.
all.
Like, that's probably, you had David Johnson, and now you're forced to start somebody in a flex spot that you don't feel confident about, and that's maybe Ingram or Kamara. Do not start Adrian Peterson.
No, that's a
disaster. Do not do it. Just don't do it.
Nope. I think it's just a very poor play overall to play any of the Saints running backs because I don't know how they're going to be used just yet. I need to see a little bit more from them, but certainly not Adrian Peterson. He touched the ball 9 times in week 1. I mean, I just don't know what he's going to be able to do on those 9 touches.
And that was the
anyway.
revenge game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not good. It's not
revenge
good for him.
Ooh,
the last thing
scary.
here is the injury update, and this is Danny Amendola, okay?
Yep.
This is a guy that was injured. He had a concussion last weekend. The latest with Danny Amendola is that he is going to sit out this week. So that makes this one pretty simple for us. He's a sit this week, obviously, because he's not playing, and the value of everybody else around him, including somebody that I am tired, and you and I have talked about
Please
it. What
don't.
is Chris Hogan?
Yeah, don't.
His value goes up this week, though, with Danny
It does.
Amendola out.
I mean, it certainly does. He's going to be the guy that gets those short yardage chunk plays, just like a Ted Ginn does.
Yep.
I mean, he's going to be that guy that tries to move the chains, pick up the
maybe,
first downs.
maybe give Chris Hogan, this is the last opportunity. Maybe
I will
feel
give
comfortable
Chris
with
Hogan.
Amendola out.
I will give Chris Hogan this. Chris Hogan, I'm watching you this week. This is your last chance with me, dude. Okay? If you play well, I will come back on this show and I will talk better about you. If
and hopefully
not,
it won't be what is Chris Hogan.
Yeah, I don't want to come on this show and say what is Chris Hogan. So, Chris, I'm looking at you here, buddy, okay? If you can have a good game this week, I will come on the show. I will sing you praise. I will tell everyone to pick you up. But you're on notice this week. This is your last chance, buddy, okay? This is your last chance to show me something because I'm tired of hearing the hype and the narrative around you. You got to show me something this week in fantasy.
All right, let's move on to the next matchup. That's
this is a fun one.
The Eagles and the Chiefs. The Chiefs overall come in and make their offense look hot on Thursday night against the New England Patriots.
How many fire emojis?
We loved it.
How many fire emojis are we going to surround around the Chiefs offense?
Love it, love it, love it. What we saw was on the road against the New England Patriots. They're at home, at Arrowhead, against a Philadelphia Eagles team that is not going to have Ronald Darby starting. What does that mean? I like the Chiefs. I like all of their
It means
players.
play everybody on the Chiefs offense.
Yes.
I mean, I just don't know what the Eagles are going to be able to do when they don't have Ronald Darby. They made a major trade in the offseason to get this guy to help them shut down opposing teams' #1 threat. And I just don't know who on the Eagles is going to be able to stick with Tyreek Hill.
You're
love
playing Tyreek Hill.
You're playing Alex.
Now that's
you're not
that's
playing
the
Alex
okay. That's the one we want to get into.
Because he's just. It's just. Can he put up 31 points again? No.
Doesn't matter. Is he going to put up 20 points? Probably. Probably. I'm starting him. Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, he was out there, of the 55% of the snaps that he was out there, he touched the ball 55% of the snap totals that he was out there.
When he was out there, more than half the time he touched the football.
Love Kareem Hunt. Love Kareem Hunt.
When he was out there, he touched the football more than half the time. It was what we talked about with Dalvin Cook. These are the numbers you need to look for to justify that this not being a one-hit wonder for Kareem Hunt. He's out there, he's touching the football.
Yep.
So if you're a fantasy owner, you're just like, okay, is Kareem Hunt out there? Because I know he's going to touch the ball. There's a good chance he's going to touch the ball every time. With Alex Smith, I want to go back to this for a second.
Okay.
Because with Alex Smith, it's so tough for me because I don't see him ever repeating that performance of a QB1 where he's a 31-point player. But 20 points, 22 points, it's probably fair. But if you are a fantasy owner and you have to make a decision to start Alex Smith, who's your other quarterback?
Sam Bradford.
Okay, that's fair. If you have Sam Bradford this week, play Alex Smith. That's my suggestion.
See how live on the show I got Chris to come to my side?
Did
you see how I did that?
That's the only situation where
live without prompting him. I actually got him to come to my side. You see how easy that was?
I have a second scenario.
Okay.
Where you should play Alex Smith this week.
Okay.
If you're still starting Andy Dalton.
Yeah,
okay?
Also that.
If you have Andy Dalton on your team, I really hope you decided to just not play him this week and make a decision here on Sunday of who your quarterback's going to be.
Dear God.
Because Andy Dalton has not thrown a touchdown yet. And if you are a fantasy owner, that's not good news for you.
I'm going to use a Colin Cowherd saying.
Okay.
Andy Dalton is a Nissan Maxima. It's my favorite analogy of all time.
Wow.
Do not start him ever. Ever, ever, ever.
Play Alex Smith this week over Andy Dalton and Sam Bradford.
Okay, let's talk about the Chiefs' defense real fast because we got into all the position players. I'm starting all of them this week because I like
Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, everybody.
Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Alex Smith, especially if you're in a quarterback where you play two quarterbacks, he's a for sure must start this week.
That must be fun.
The Chiefs' defense is an amazing start at home. Why? They allowed 55.7 completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks, which is insane, and a 7 to 10 touchdown to interception rating. That is unreal. That is unreal.
Chiefs
this defense is amazing, and they're very, very good at home. They're a must-start. Lock and load.
Lock and load. This is the second lock and load of the day. Tariq Cohen was a lock and load earlier, and now the Chiefs defense.
Lock and load, baby. Lock and load.
Is Alex Smith a lock and load?
No.
Okay, he's just a lock.
No, he's just a lock.
Okay.
All right.
What's the difference? What makes somebody a lock, and what makes somebody a load, and then what makes somebody a lock and load?
Okay, so there's only lock and load, and then a lock.
So,
a lock is something I like. Lock and load is like, yes, 120%. Sign me up. Love that guy.
All right, so let's talk about the Eagles.
Yes.
Because I think there are a lot of players on this Eagles team that are still starts despite the Chiefs' defense being really good. I think you have to start Alshon Jeffrey because he's the #1 guy in this offense. He's going to be the guy. Now, if you're a little bit... Don't start Carson Wentz. Because if you have Carson Wentz, I got a statistic for you. Kansas City has held 7 of the last 9 quarterbacks that they've played to 1 touchdown or fewer. And some of those quarterbacks, just for example, Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, Tom Brady. That's a lot of good quarterbacks.
What does that mean, don't start Carson Wentz?
Don't start Carson Wentz. Now, the trickle-down effect to that is Alshon Jeffrey going to get in the end zone? Because Alshon Jeffrey is going to catch those big plays. But do you have enough confidence in Alshon Jeffrey to make some of the bigger plays and maybe not have a touchdown? Because what I saw last week, and this is a really weird comparison, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
Antonio Brown last week didn't catch a touchdown. caught 11 catches for 182 yards, and still had over 30 fantasy points.
For sure. You love
so
that.
Alshon Jeffrey can get you fantasy points and still not catch a touchdown. So I still think Alshon Jeffrey is a play this week. I think Nelson Aguilar in a PPR league is a play this week. This is a guy that I'm really high on this season because I think after they traded Jordan Matthews, they don't have a number 2 in this offense, and I think that's where Nelson Aguilar steps up. Do not play any of the running backs on the Philadelphia team because they're all bad. LeGarrette Blount is garbage. And that's it. That's all I got on the Eagles.
Now we're going to go to my guy that I like on the Eagles because not only did Chris tell me...
Don't go here.
Yeah, I'm going here because Chris was wrong. Okay, Chris was wrong. Told everybody not to like Zach Ertz.
Still don't like him.
Okay, Zach Ertz looks good. What happened last week? I'm going to show you some things. Okay, with Eric Berry out, this is huge for the Kansas City defense. They're still going to be a must play. But that opportunity for Zach Ertz in the middle of the field, he is going to eat this week. He's going to feast through the middle of the field. Zach Ertz is a must-start for a tight end.
Must start. Oh, goodness gracious.
And I love it because it makes Chris's skin crawl.
Oh, my gosh.
He gets very upset because he knows he hates when I'm right, and that's usually like, I don't know, on an average 98% of the time.
So is Zach Ertz a lock and load then?
No, he's not.
Don't go that far.
He's a lock. He's a lock this week.
Zach Ertz is
I got all the stats,
good.
baby.
But he's not good.
No.
Now I do agree
He's
with
good.
you. I do think the matchup this week for him is very favorable.
It's about matchups. That's what this all is
agreed.
about.
Agreed. So if there's a week that you're going to get something out of Zach Ertz, it's probably this one.
Yep.
Because they don't have Eric Berry, they don't have that safety that can just cover the tight end coming out of the back. So I like it. I don't love it, and you know what?
Feast, baby.
Zach Ertz.
The middle of the field.
Zach Ertz, you're on notice. I'll put you and Chris Hogan on notice this week. I'll pay attention to you.
Zach, lock and load, baby.
All right. Lock and load. You stuck it in there.
Lock and load, baby. Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, a defense that stepped up in a huge way. 10 sacks. If you can get 10 sacks from your fantasy defense, my, oh my, they are really winning you that week. Now, I do not expect the Jacksonville Jaguars to come back and have anywhere near 10 sacks.
Don't get on the hype train.
But if they go for 3 sacks,
I think that's a lot.
That's a lot. They're scoring you some serious points. They are at home. This defense is very, very good. I know they've had some injury concerns, but all the reports say that both the guys, A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey, are probable for this weekend. So if that happens, if they're playing, this defense is in the love category.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to make them good is their secondary, and that is A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey is probably my favorite defensive young player in the league right now. I just love watching him play. I'll
give you props because you love this defense ahead of everybody else.
It just screams potential for me, and they have the secondary. The secondary is there. They need to do a little bit better in the linebacker core for me, but defensively from a fantasy perspective, I look at this team and I see a situation where they got 10.5 sacks or 10 sacks or whatever the number ended up being against the Houston Texans team that had a very poor offensive line. We saw what happened on Thursday night for Houston in trying to protect Deshaun Watson. They weren't able to do it. They had to bring in extra offensive linemen and dress them as tight ends so they could play them in their offensive line scheme to protect Deshaun Watson. Tennessee, a much better offensive line. I think this is an offensive line that's second best in the NFL. I think it's right behind Dallas's. I think it's an offensive line that doesn't get talked about enough. And I think it's going to be a better matchup for Tennessee this week with Marcus Mariota because I just don't think that Malik Jackson, Calais Campbell, and those guys are going to have as much success getting after the quarterback as they did in week 1.
Okay, so let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars offensively.
Don't do this to me.
Because
you know how I feel about most of this team.
Chris has what shall we call a man crush? He has a man crush.
Yes.
He is crushing on Leonard Fournette. Big time.
Next week, can we get a picture?
Big man crush. He's in love with Leonard Fournette.
Next week, can we get a picture? I'm asking the stats team live on air. Can we get a picture next week of the heart from like I Love Lucy with me and Leonard Fournette together? I need that for next week. They're giving me the thumbs up. So next week we should have that. Leonard Fournette is winning me my fantasy league.
Drop the knowledge. I know you got the stats.
I do.
I know you got the stats.
He saw 29 touches in week 1 and recorded the 3rd highest scrimmage yards total of a player making their debut since 2009.
We love it.
And in a Blake Bortles-led offense, Leonard Fournette is going to touch the football a lot. This is not a one-week thing. This is not just a case of T.J. Yeldon being out and Leonard Fournette having an opportunity to play better. Leonard Fournette is going to be the featured back in this offense. He's going to continue to see that many touches. He's going to continue to be able to put up that many yards. And guess what? Against the Houston defense, he saw a lot of guys in the box against him and still had success. Now, the Tennessee defense is not as good as the Houston defense.
Nope.
So Leonard Fournette is a must-play this week. Right now, I would categorize him as a top-tier running back 2. And if he continues to play the way that he played in week 1, he's very quickly going to get into that running back 1 category.
I nerded out hardcore while looking at Leonard Fournette.
You got some next-gen statistics.
I got some next-gen stats. The Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans both run a 3-4 defense.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for Leonard Fournette? Big offensive production. It is going to be amazing for Leonard Fournette this week. I am loving on Leonard Fournette. Just like Chris, I'm not quite in the crush category.
We're going to have
Chris
the Chris's crush every week.
Yes.
Next week is going to be me and Leonard Fournette.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Look at us coming up with segments
live
on the show. Live on the show. I love it. Let's move on to Tennessee because they had a pretty bad showing last week at home against the Oakland Raiders.
Just weird for them.
A lot of people were in love with this offense, and including myself.
Yep.
And I think it might take some time for them to get going, but it is concerned because they are now going on the road to play a Jacksonville defense, and this is not an easy matchup for them. So what do you like most about these guys, Chris?
I'm playing Corey Davis this week. I know you're not. You like to sit Corey Davis this week. I think Corey Davis is going to have a little bit more success than people think, and here's why. I just need to see who's going to cover who in this offense yet for Jacksonville, because A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey, how do they match up? Which one's covering Eric Decker? Which one's going to maybe cover Delanie Walker? Because I don't know if they have a safety that can really take away Delanie Walker. They may have to put a corner on that guy. Where does A.J. Boye go? I just need to see who gets matched up against who before I'm really willing to make a determination about how they're going to deploy their secondary. And I think Corey Davis, maybe he doesn't have that big chunk play for 60, 70, 80 yards for a touchdown. But I think he's a chain mover. I think he's an 8-catch guy. And in a PPR league, that's huge. 8 catches, 75, 100 yards. You're very happy with that type of production, even if he doesn't get it in the end zone.
Here's where I disagree with you about Corey Davis. I went to my sources. I
hate when you go to your sources. They make me look bad.
My sources told me that Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye are going to be one of those two guys is just going to follow Corey Davis around.
As they should.
And he's going to be taken out of the game. And that's not to say there's just so many offensive pieces to like here that if he gets taken out, you got to be able to go somewhere else. And so I'm starting. I like Mariota this week. I like Delanie Walker this week. When you look at the running backs, I really do like both. I like
Derrick Henry is a guy you got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, you got to keep an eye on Derrick Henry.
You're on notice, Derrick Henry.
Oh, Chris is putting you on notice. Watch out.
That's 3. Chris Hogan.
Yeah, he's really putting everyone on notice.
Derrick Henry and Zach Ertz are all on notice this week.
But Murray is still worth a start.
He's still the premier back
there.
Yeah,
he's still the guy there, and they're going to go with a run-heavy approach this week, I believe, because of what happened last week. They're really going to try and establish that running game, and DeMarco Murray is obviously, of 2 years ago, the league leading in rushing. He is a very capable back. What does that mean for Derrick Henry? I'm not as comfortable starting Henry. I think I'm, like Chris said, I have him on notice.
It's wait and see.
I'm in wait and see mode because if DeMarco Murray is going to be the featured back there and Derrick Henry is only going to be the guy that comes in and supplements him, I don't feel real comfortable starting him. So I'm starting DeMarco Murray, maybe putting Derrick Henry in a flex spot, but not feeling too good about it.
No, not at all. It's not that I don't like Derrick Henry. I do. I'm in a keepers league. I kept him, even though I knew he was going to be the second back, because I think by season's end he's the guy.
Yes.
It's just I need to see him develop a little bit more before I'm willing to put a whole lot of stock in him just yet.
Yeah. Okay. So for this team, what are we locking and loading here? I like Mariota.
We're playing Marcus.
I like Murray.
We're playing DeMarco. We're playing Delanie Walker.
Yes.
I think all 3 of those guys are must-plays.
I'm flexing Decker.
I think that's sneaky good. I would keep – I think it's really a game-time call. Look at your roster with Corey Davis just to see. I'm playing him because I don't like some of the – Corey Coleman's the other guy I'm considering, and I just don't like Coleman's matchup very well against Baltimore. I'll take my chances with a rookie in Corey Davis.
See, that's where I would go differently. I would start Coleman just because I think he's going to get more receiving yards, especially in a PPR league where there aren't as many offensive weapons like there are with the Tennessee Titans.
Antonio Brown's going to carry me this week. That's my
Antonio Brown carries everybody. Okay. Arizona Cardinals and Indianapolis Colts.
This
I got my card
my
shirt. I'm rocking the card shirt today. Go Bird Gang.
This
matchup Shout out to the Bird
makes
Gang.
my head hurt.
Oh, God. Why does it make your head hurt, Chris?
Because
Go ahead.
I don't know.
It's all about you.
I just don't know how many players.
I
don't know how many players you're playing from either of these two teams.
I can tell you.
It's maybe 2.
I can tell you. I can tell you, okay? Because Chris obviously needs me to steer him in the right direction here.
How many players do you play
The Indianapolis Colts are not good. Breaking news. They're a really, really bad football team.
Do you have sources on that?
Yeah, I have really good sources.
Are they your eyes?
Really good sources that I talk to that Chris does not have that I have, okay? Let's just
Because my eyes tell me the
Colts
Indianapolis
are garbage.
Colts
are garbage, okay? They're really bad. And what does that mean? We are starting. This is who I like this week.
Who we starting?
Carson Palmer. Lock.
Yep.
Lock.
Yeah, can we go?
J.J. Nelson is a lock this week because John Brown is sitting out with an injury. He's going to be a deep threat this week, okay? The only other person that I'm kind of flirting with is Kerwin Williams. Yeah. Why? Because I got some sources on that one, too. Jesus. I like that Kerwin Williams is going to be the featured back. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to put up David Johnson numbers, but what does that mean for your fantasy football team? An RB2 spot, a flex spot? I'm loving it because Indianapolis is a bad football team. They're in a dome. Bruce Arians is returning to Indianapolis for the first time since he coached there. I love the emotion of what's going to happen here. And the Arizona Cardinals defense, that's a lock and load. That's not a lock. That's a lock and load because Jacoby Brissett is starting there. What is this offense? It's nothing without Andrew Luck. Lock and load that defense.
I need for next week. I'm making another stat request, a graphic request.
Live on the show?
Can we make a graphic where there's a lock and then there's a gun that's loading?
Lock and load.
I just need Paige's locks and loads of the week. I just need that for next week.
I just need a sound of a machine gun.
Yeah, just a sound effect. Yep, every time there's a lock and load, we're going to need to play that. Kerwin Williams is interesting to me.
Okay,
because I agree with you that he's going to be the featured back. And by sources, do you just mean the internet? Do you just mean the internet telling you that he's going to be the starter?
No,
those are your sources?
I have actual sources.
Because the internet just told me that he's the starter this week, and we knew that once David Johnson went down. Kerwin Williams, who was the backup, elevated. This could mean good things for a Chris Johnson type who they picked up. Keep an eye on Chris Johnson. He's not on notice because Chris Johnson's not a thing just yet. But keep an eye on Chris Johnson because week to week this may change for the Cardinals, who they feature. It may just be riding the hot hand just because they don't have a guy like David Johnson there anymore. J.J. Nelson, he needs to show me something before I'm even willing to start him. Carson's a start, though, because I really think he's got a bounce-back performance. I don't think he's got 3 picks in him. I can't name a Colts defensive player, so I just don't know who's going to throw an interception. He's going to throw an interception,
I need to talk about somebody. You need to let me talk about Larry.
Okay, go ahead.
I need to talk about Larry because everybody loves Larry.
Larry Legend.
Larry Legend, Larry Fitzgerald. He's an amazing football player and an incredible human being, okay? In the passing attack, Larry Fitzgerald should smash in this game. Why? Because the Colts struggled to defend Cooper Kupp. Did you know who Cooper Kupp was before the Rams started this season? Probably not, okay?
I knew who Cooper Kupp was.
Fitzgerald saw 13 targets in week 1. I think he gets 15 targets in week 2, and he smashes in this game, scores a touchdown, has 100 yards of receiving. I love Fitz this week. He's another lock and load. Lock and load. Pew, pew. That's the gun noise. That's all I got. Chris is looking at me. I wish he was on camera. His face is he's so confused. All right, I'll move on. I'll move on to the Colts. Don't start anybody. If your team is relying on the Colts to give you anything, you should probably not be playing fantasy football, and you might be featured in your team sucks.
Jacoby Brissett starting. No, not a fantasy perspective, just something I want to watch. How Jacoby Brissett does. Make it a start for Indianapolis. It'll be nice.
That's what it is.
This is a game that I'm not going to watch. This game is bad.
I'm watching the Cardinals, but it's going to be ugly.
It's going to be a very ugly football game.
Could entertain the fact that they might be the worst roster in the NFL, especially without Andrew Luck. All right, Buffalo Bills and Carolina Panthers. Somebody I love here, based off of what happened last week, is Shady McCoy.
I mean,
he's a guy, when they traded away Sammy Watkins, I thought his value went up, and the proof is in the pudding because last week he got all the touches.
All 27. He had 27 total touches. He got all the touches in that offense, 159 total yards. If he is going to have that many touches on a week-to-week basis, he's a must-play. You're just going to take your chances, and you're going to take your lumps when Buffalo struggles on offense and doesn't have a great game. But I think Shady McCoy each week is going to be good. I mean, I just don't see a matchup for him in the AFC East or just on their schedule that, to me, makes LeSean McCoy a non-start. I would play him every week.
I like him a lot this week for all the reasons that you just said. The other guy that I really like, and this is somebody could be in the Paige crush category almost.
No, don't steal my gimmick.
Okay.
Chris's crush is alliteration.
Chris's crush, that's
okay?
his. Charles Clay continues to prove why he's a viable option, why he led the team in targets over the last 5 weeks of the season, including last week and the last 4 weeks of the NFL season. He was the #1 tight end as far as scoring in fantasy football. What does that mean? Charles Clay is a start.
Absolutely, 100%. Tyrod Taylor's going to go to the checkdowns a lot, going to go to the short passing game. Doesn't really have a deep passing game there. Zay Jones, nice target.
Yeah,
I like Zay Jones.
But they didn't get the ball enough.
I just don't know what Buffalo's going to be able to do offensively. They're not going to be a team that puts up like 35 points in a game.
Zay Jones and Jordan Matthews combined for 7 targets.
Right, they're not going to air the ball out. They're not going to make those plays. It's where they're going to dump the ball. If they are going to pass it, it's going to go to LaShawn McCoy. It's going to go to Charles Clay. Those are the guys that are going to be used in this offense. So those are the only 2 guys I'm playing this week.
Yeah, I'm sitting everybody else, including that defense, because I like Carolina's offense a lot this week. What do you like about Carolina this week?
Jonathan Stewart is a guy that, if you'll remember when they had D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart, it was a fantasy football owner's nightmare to try to figure out who they were going to play each and every week because you just didn't know who was going to start for them. And when I look at this team now, it's kind of a similar situation. They've just replaced D'Angelo Williams with Christian McCaffrey. But Jonathan Stewart was a top 15 running back next week on ESPN.com. He was the 14th best running back. So he's not going to go away. Just because they got a new shiny toy in Christian McCaffrey doesn't mean that Jonathan Stewart's not going to be involved, that he's not going to get touches. And he is going to get touches. Maybe more so in the passing game than Christian McCaffrey. Maybe he sees more running carries. I think on a week-to-week basis, you're going to see these guys ebb and flow with what their roles are. So if you have them, I think they're both candidates for a flex play this week.
Okay, what do I like about Carolina this week? I like that Cam, his shoulder's getting healthier. If he can return to even 3/4 of what he was 2 seasons ago, where he was a fantasy football god. Love Cam. Stewart, McCaffrey, think very interested. Calvin Benjamin did disappoint in week 1, but I think he's a guy that I'm starting Cam, I'm starting Greg Olsen, I'm starting Benjamin, and I'm starting that defense, and I'm flexing Stewart and McCaffrey.
Yeah, you're starting everybody in that Carolina team just because you think as Cam gets healthier, that team is going to get better offensively, and Cam now has a game under his belt. I think that's better. We're going to go to this next game, and I'm just going to let Paige do this because this is the easiest thing on the show. I'm just going to take a sip of my drink.
Okay.
This should take 60 seconds.
Yeah, this is an easy one. If you have any New York Jets players, stop playing fantasy football because you made a horrible decision. Okay? Don't start anybody on the New York Jets. Don't start their defense. Don't start any of their blah position players.
Blah is an understatement.
Blah is a nice word
it's a nice
that I'm using because I can't use the words that I would like to describe them.
You can. We'll just probably get in trouble.
I would probably get in trouble. Raiders, everybody. Just start everybody. We don't need to tell you why. If you're asking yourself why, then you probably should stop also playing fantasy.
We're here to help you.
Just play everybody on the Raiders. Everybody on the Raiders should be played. Their defense should be played. It's just that offense is going to smash this team. It's going to could be a 2 to 3 touchdown victory for the Raiders. It's going to be bad for the New York Jets. And you at this point, if you have a New York Jets player that everybody on your team must be injured because you shouldn't be relying on anybody from the New York Jets to help you out. Chris, let's go now to the Jets fan, Chris. Chris, how do you feel about it?
I have no words. There's no words to describe.
Because he can't. He knows.
We are here to help you make the tough decisions on your fantasy football team.
Yes.
If you need to come to us to help you figure out whether or not you should play a Jet and whether or not you should play a Raider this week, we can't help you.
No.
It's impossible. We are not going to be able to help you.
No.
You start every Raider this week, including their defense, and you sit every Jet you can possibly have. And if you have a Jet on your team, we're going to have a conversation.
I want to go to the Twitter poll. Okay, Taylor made an awesome graphic that you guys saw at the beginning of the show. That's the quarterback poll. I put it on Twitter, so I'm going to give you the latest results.
We got an update on this. Okay.
Who will score the most fantasy football points today? Wow, the percentages changed as I was looking at. That's the best part about this. With 257 votes, Aaron Rodgers in the lead with 42%. They're obviously listening to Paige. They're smart people there on Twitter. Number 2. Derek Carr this week because they love.
Yeah, they're playing the Jets.
They love that matchup. Number 3, Tom Brady. And number 4, with a lowly 7%, Russell Wilson. And why is that?
The offensive line.
Because people are afraid of that offensive line, and you people, you're very smart.
Yeah, you're listening too much to Paige.
Very smart people. You're listening to me and you're watching with your eyeballs. Okay, you're doing the eye test, and you look at that offensive line and you use Chris's word. Garbage. That offensive line is trash. Garbage. Really, really bad. Okay? So what does that mean for Russell Wilson? He's running for his life. I still like Wilson this week because they're facing the Niners. But when I look at those other 4 QBs, I like them way more. And Twitter, very smart today. I hardly, that doesn't happen very often. I never say Twitter, you're being really smart today, but Twitter, you're being really smart. My followers are real smart.
Agreeing
really
with Twitter is very rare.
My followers are just brilliant. They are smart people.
Or they're just drinking your Kool-Aid.
Nope. They are drinking the smart Kool-Aid, and that is the Paige Kool-Aid. All right, moving on. The Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Who do you like on this team?
Let's start with the Dolphins.
Don't go here. Don't do this to everybody.
Jay Cutler.
Oh, boy. Hold on.
Smoking Jay Cutler.
Hold on.
Smoking Jay Cutler. Hop aboard the J train.
Yep, where are we going? There we go.
Jay Ajayi and Jay Cutler. I'm just kidding. Hop aboard the Jay Ajayi train, not the Jay Cutler train. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, you feel confident starting Jay Cutler. And if you
just strap yourself in if you're playing Jay Cutler this week.
You feel confident in a 2-quarterback league. If Jay is your starter, let's say Sam Bradford was your guy, or you're having an issue this week trying to figure it out.
You can play Jay Cutler in this matchup.
You can play Jay Cutler. Here's the thing about
Jay. He's going to die because Joey Bosa's going to kill him, but
that's not happening. Jay Cutler is a good fantasy quarterback, bad real life.
No, yeah, he's Matt Stafford. He's a lesser tier of Matt Stafford.
Very much so. And he's in Adam Gase's offense. So what do I like most about this week? I love Jay Ajayi. This is a guy I'm 100% starting. Obviously, you did not see what they did in week 1. But there is a lot to like here, and there's one guy that I have here that I think we both like. Chris, what do you like about the Miami Dolphins this week?
I like Parker. Yep. I really do, because I think this is a player that is going to see a lot of touches in this offense as Jay Cutler fields himself out and sees what works for them and what doesn't. And I think Parker is a guy that if you need an extra wide receiver, where would you classify him, Paige? Wide receiver 2?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where I have him
with potential to be a wide receiver.
Absolutely. I just need to see how he gels with Jay Cutler, but I think if you're looking at a target, it's going to be Parker this week.
So here's the thing. If you watch any of the preseason and you read into what was going on when Jay Cutler came in, Devontae Parker quickly became the guy there. So you feel confident starting Jay Ajayi. You feel confident starting Devontae Parker. In a flex position, I'm putting Stills. I don't feel confident maybe making him a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, but if you're in a PPR league, I do like him in a flex position. I'm sitting that defense because of what Phillip Rivers did last week to the Denver defense, and this Miami Dolphins defense is not the Denver defense, and they're at home. I'm sitting Landry, and I'm sitting Demaryius Thomas because Demaryius Thomas.
Demaryius or Julius?
Julius Thomas. Julius Thomas.
Demaryius, we'll get to you.
I got to you because they're both Peyton Manning, former
We'll get
Peyton Manning.
to you, Demaryius.
Julius Thomas without Peyton Manning is nothing. I bought into it. I thought Julius, he was a great tight end in the Peyton Manning offense. What I should have told myself is Peyton Manning is amazing, and he makes everybody look good. Now you see what Julius Thomas is, and he's not a focal point in that offense. He doesn't get the ball. So if he's your tight end, there's a lot other tight ends that I like this week to start, and one of them is on the other team. Let's get into the Chargers. Chris, what do you like this week?
Mainly everything on their offense that is not named Hunter Henry. It's simple as that.
Chris hates
Everything that is not named Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry has burned me last week with 0 catches. 0. I looked it up. 0. I fact-checked it. 0. Phillip Rivers threw 3 touchdowns against the Denver Broncos defense. That's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive.
And you don't expect a quarterback to be able to do that. And guess what? Miami's defense, while I don't think it gets the credit it deserves, is not Denver's defense. That means success for Phillip Rivers. Who does that also mean success for? His number 1 target. That means Keenan Allen will have a good game. They're going to try to establish their running game, which they actually struggled against. We talked about on this show during the week last week the ability of Melvin Gordon to have success against a Denver rushing defense that's not very good, and he didn't have success. Denver did a really good job against him. I think he has better success this week. So I'm starting Phillip Rivers. I'm starting Keenan Allen. I'm starting Antonio Gates. I'm starting Melvin Gordon. I'm not starting Hunter Henry.
No. You're definitely not starting Hunter Henry, and even Gates is on the borderline for me as well. Hunter,
you're on notice. That's it. He's on notice now.
You're on notice. You're officially
4 players on notice. Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry. Who else? I've made so many lists I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't really.
Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, Chris Hogan is on watch as well. He's on notice. I forget who the 4th player is.
he's putting everybody on notice.
Everybody's on notice.
That's what this show's
today.
about. We're putting people on notice, and we're paying close attention to what you're doing for your fantasy team.
Yep.
Melvin Gordon saw 23 touches against the Broncos, cementing that he will be the workhorse back. He's
Absolutely.
an RB1. You put him in the lock and load category, okay? Like we said.
Lock and load.
You're
Too many
feeling,
locks and loads today,
you're lock
Paige.
and loading. Phillip Rivers, love what he did last week against the Denver Broncos was beautiful. An offensive fantasy performance that you love. So you feel confident starting Phillip Rivers as a QB1. Cutler was sacked. This is a stat about Jay Cutler because you all know I got to give you the Jay Cutler.
Of course
stats, okay?
you do.
Cutler was sacked 29 times the last time he was in an Adam Gase offense. And the Bolts, that would be the Chargers, boast one of the best pass rush defenses in the league with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. So what does that mean? You are locking and loading that defense because Jay is going to get sacked. We all know that Smoking Jay does not like to get hit. It's inevitable that he might even be injured by the third quarter.
I just said it. I said Joey Bosa's going to kill him.
Yeah, that's what Jay Cutler does, okay? He's going to get sacked. You're going to get a lot of fantasy points. So you are locking in that defense for a start this week.
Yeah, I
Chris, you agree?
couldn't have said it any better myself.
Smart. Chris is finally agreeing. All right,
Pick
moving
my
on.
battles.
Moving on to another one, another offensively gifted matchup because of the defense and the team that they're playing, and that is the San Francisco 49ers going on the road to play the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, the Seattle Seahawks offense looked terrible against the Green Bay Packers on the road last week. I envision that they will be better this week. I'm not in love with this offense, but I do like this matchup for them. Chris, what do you like most about this matchup specifically?
For Seattle, it has to be their passing game getting back on point after struggling in week 1 of the regular season against the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers defense that I think we'd like to see a little bit more of, that we didn't think was going to be as good as it was there in week 1, but it was. And it starts with the offensive line. And you're going to play Russell Wilson this week because against the 49ers, I just don't know how much of a pass rush they're going to have, and I think you're going to see a little bit more success. So I like Russell Wilson. I'm never, ever, 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 ever playing a Seattle running back. Ever.
Nope.
Ever.
Nope.
Jimmy Graham and Doug Baldwin are both players that I'm playing this week. I just think the offense is going to be more conducive for it. I think it's going to be better this week for them. So Russell Wilson, the Seattle defense, Doug Baldwin, Jimmy Graham, all starts this week.
I'm putting in my watch list.
Oh, you're keeping an eye on somebody.
I'm keeping an eye, and if you're in like I am, in a 16-team PPR
That's a lot
league,
of teams.
Okay, you're in a deep PPR league, and you need 2 flex positions.
Ooh, are you going to put my guy on notice?
I'm going to put Richardson in.
Yes,
and
Paul
that
Richardson.
is because he played 83% of the plays last week, and I'm not in love. He's not. If you're in a 10-team league, this isn't the guy for you, but I'm in a 16. I'm speaking specifically to people that play in deep leagues like I do. I'm in a 16-team league that plays 2 flex positions. Paul Richardson's a guy that I really like this week based off of how many snaps he saw and based off the fact that they're playing San Francisco. And I do see and buy into a little bit of that revenge for this team because this team is still a very, very good football team, and I don't think Russell Wilson, after laying an egg and just really playing a very, very poor game in Green Bay, I see them bouncing back and having a very good football game overall offensively, even with that offensive line, just because the San Francisco 49ers, even though I like their defense in pieces, they don't have Reuben Foster this week, and they're just going to be on the field the whole time because they're just not very good. That offense isn't going to be able to do anything on the Seahawks against the Seahawks defense, and that's what I like most this week. Seahawks defense, that's a lock and load for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. I think they're just going to find a lot of success. I think they played much better this week. Gives them a nice building block going forward.
All right, what do we like? Moving on, nothing from the 49ers. Nothing. 0 things. You're not starting anybody.
Zero fun, sir.
Yeah, zero fun,
one of my
sir.
favorite movies.
There are plenty of better options out there behind us right now, behind the cameras. They're doing a big zero.
There's a big zero.
Goose egg, okay? Because this team, you just have to know, based off of matchups, okay? Carlos Hyde, you might like in certain matchups, but you don't like him going on the road against the Seattle Seahawks defense. This offense is not good. They're going to be behind, so they're not going to be running the ball. They're probably going to try and force the ball, if anything. So maybe Pierre Garçon if you're in a deep PPR league, but personally, no way.
Nope.
Not starting anybody.
Not something I can trust in.
Not something I feel confident in at all. But let's go into the next matchup. That's the Washington Redskins and the LA Rams. Chris, we'll start with the Redskins.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins last year was a fantasy football, a guy you felt very confident in.
He was a tank in fantasy football.
Yeah,
he was a workhorse.
Very good. He was a workhorse. They got rid of pretty much all of his offensive weapons in the offseason, and it's a completely new look Washington Redskins team. Now, they looked out of funk, out of sorts in moments of last week, and I don't think offensively they're cohesive yet. What do you like about the Washington Redskins offense, if anything?
I can't believe I'm actually going to say this.
Oh, boy.
I like Chris Thompson this week. And I know.
Say it again.
Everybody at home, I know you're sitting down. I like Chris Thompson this week after I have completely destroyed this guy the last couple of weeks as somebody who I didn't even know he was on the team. I mean, I think by the end of the season, Samaje Perine ends up being the starter. And Rob Kelly doesn't really do a whole lot, but Chris Thompson is going to be in the game if the team falls behind. I mean, do they use him? I need to see a little bit more from him, but I think Rob Kelly and Chris Thompson are both plays this week because I think they both serve the team different needs, and they're both going to be used. So I like Chris Thompson after what he did in week 1. I'm willing to give him a chance in week 2. He's not on notice because I think he actually should start maybe in a flex spot here in week 2. But I like Chris Thompson. I like Rob Kelly. I like Kirk Cousins as well. I think he's going to find some success against this Rams defense that I think a lot of people are overvaluing after what they did to the Indianapolis Colts that I think Paige and I could have played for. And so I think there's some overvalue there. So I like Kirk Cousins in this week as well.
I like Jordan Reed this week. He was second in the team in targets. He's always a guy. He's a very, very talented tight end. He's a guy that almost plays a wide receiver role, almost that Gronk role in this offense. He led the team with 8 targets. I think that if they're going to go air it out, they're going to talk to him. They're going to throw the ball to Jordan Reed because they have to. And the LA Rams defense, which we'll get into, I do like the Rams defense, but they played against an Indianapolis Colts team, which, like Chris said, we might be able to start for.
What position would you want to play for the Colts?
Oh, I want to be safety.
You'd be safety?
Yeah, I'm fast. I like to hit people.
I was going to be a shutdown
I would be
corner.
getting over people and giving them.
Oh yeah. So all right. So how about this? I'll be the shutdown corner on that side, and we'll just blanket one side of the field.
Okay.
We'll be like our own version of the no-fly zone.
Yeah, we're going to be the no-fly zone.
Yeah, nothing.
Chris and I are going to walk over you and go.
Yep. There's nothing.
No-fly zone, baby.
The Rams.
Call us up.
Yeah,
we're ready to play.
We're here.
Ready
the Rams, offensively.
Okay.
What do we not like about this team?
What do we not like?
Todd Gurley.
Gurley is coming off a 19-carry, 40 yards. Yes, that's 19 carries and a total of 40 yards.
He got in the end zone, which is going to skew the numbers a little bit.
1.9 yards per carry.
This is what we saw last year from him.
Bad.
That offensive line cannot protect him, cannot give him time to find holes and make cuts and make big plays. He's just not doing anything. And yeah, maybe when they get into the red zone, he'll have a touchdown or 2. But this type of production, I mean, if he doesn't score a touchdown, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just hating yourself because you're probably playing Todd Gurley as a running back 1, and he's not doing anything. Now, yes, as a flex option, he's going to be in the passing game. He's going to be used quite a bit. But I think to play him as one of your top 2 running backs, I think is a disaster. If you want to play him as a flex because you don't have anybody else, I think that's fine. But I think there are a lot of other better options there at running back, even if you are in a deep 16-team league.
All right, to the 2 people chirping at me on Twitter about Jared Goff.
Don't do it. Don't make me yell.
Do not do it.
Do not make me yell.
Do not do it. Do not tweet at me. And if you start him, I will not feel bad for you, and you might even get a 1-day block for that.
Ooh, I banned somebody from playing fantasy football earlier in the week.
I might even do a Twitter block for a day if you start.
Twitter block.
Okay. Jared Goff showed you 1 game
against the Colts.
1 game against the Colts. There's a clause there. Okay. He played a Pop Warner football team. Okay. So please do not start Jared Goff this week because there are way better quarterback options. If you are in a 2-quarterback league, okay, that's fine. You play Jared Goff as a starting quarterback. It's a little bit more acceptable. But if you are in a 1-quarterback league and you start Jared Goff, you're getting Twitter blocked. I'm blocking you. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to block you for a day. You're going to serve your suspension, and hopefully you move on and learn from your lessons because you should not be starting Jared Goff in fantasy football this week. I am flexing Gurley. I'm flexing Cooper Kupp. I'm flexing Sammy Watkins, and I'm sitting everything else.
Yep, sounds about right to me.
And starting the defense. I feel confident starting the defense just because I know we've been making fun of the Indianapolis Colts, but what they did last week was great, and I'm just not in love with the Washington Redskins. They're at home. I do like this defense this week.
Yep, I 100% agree with Paige.
Oh, look at that.
I know.
100% agree. Let's go to a question I got on Twitter. We're going to answer this one live here.
Okay.
This one comes from Super Mario 308 on Twitter.
That's a great
He wants
name.
to know, he can flex somebody on this list. He has Darren McFadden, who is the backup running back to Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay,
or
I don't like that.
Start J.J. Nelson in a PPR league. I know who I'm going with. I'll let Chris answer the question first. Chris.
As much as I don't like him this week, if those are my two options, I'm starting J.J. Nelson. Because
Chris
I
is
just
listening.
don't think Darren McFadden is going to be able to do a whole lot. And do we even know if he's healthy? He didn't play in week 1. So with his health...
Zeke's the man. I don't know why you have Darren McFadden on your team.
I mean, is Darren McFadden going to be a third down back? That's nice. That's really nice.
That's cute.
J.J. Nelson, he's fast. He can run down the field.
You had McFadden assuming that Zeke wasn't going to play, and that's not happening anymore. So
with J.J. Nelson, he has the ability to make a huge play. Now, he's going to drop some balls, and you are going to be furious watching this game at home. But J.J. Nelson has that big playability. I like his upside more than Darren McFadden. I think this is an easy choice. If these are your two options, you play J.J. Nelson.
All right, this is an afternoon game. This is a really, really good matchup. The Dallas Cowboys going on the road to face the Denver Broncos. One of the best atmospheres in all of the NFL. You saw what they did last week to the Chargers and how many offensive miscues they had and how Phillip Rivers was not able to get the ball off. Now, we'll start with the Cowboys. When I look at the Cowboys, they did prove something to me. They proved that offensive line is still very, very, very good. Mm-hmm. Ezekiel Elliott, breaking news, is good at football. Okay?
Yes, he is.
So if you drafted Zeke, you probably thought he was going to sit. It's looking like he's not going to. And if you have him, he's obviously your running back 1. He might be the highest scoring guy this week only because the Denver Broncos rushing defense was 28th in the league last year. I know that Melvin Gordon had an average game against him, but with that offensive line with the Dallas Cowboys, you feel so confident starting both Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott because of what both of them do. Yeah,
the running game for Dallas is what their offense is predicated on, and that's where Zeke is going to make a lot of his big plays is through the running game. He's not really a guy that's going to catch a whole lot out of the backfield. And I look at this Denver team that had one good game. They were able to beat Melvin Gordon and stop him. I need to see more consistency from them because, as Paige mentioned, they did not have a good run defense last year. They struggled against the run. So I need to see it from 2 weeks from them. So Zeke's definitely a play. Dak is a play, although I'd be concerned a little bit about that secondary for Denver causing a little bit of trouble. I am playing Jason Witten. I love a tight end in an offense that's very predicated on the run with a young quarterback. I just love that matchup. And Dez Bryant, maybe. He's probably close to a game time decision. I'm probably at best flexing him. I just think he's too talented to leave out of your lineup. So if you can find a better matchup for your true running backs and you want to flex Dez, I would do that. But other than that, there's not a whole lot else I like on this Dallas team this week.
Zeke's a lock and load.
Lock and load.
Lock and load. Dak Prescott, in 3 games against top 10 pass defenses in 2016, Dak Prescott averaged 230 yards, completing 75% of his passes. He threw 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. What does that mean? I feel confident starting Dak Prescott this week. He's on the verge of becoming a must-start every week as a fantasy football player. I know that he was coming into his second season. There were some question marks. But with Ezekiel Elliott in that backfield and that offensive line, Dak Prescott is a must-start for me. Now, when we look over on the Broncos side of things, Chris.
Yes.
What do you like about the Broncos offense? Because they did show that they could be a little bit more fantasy valuable than maybe people had thought.
Please do not buy into Trevor Siemian. Please do not buy into what Trevor Siemian did in 1 week. But a guy that I love, C.J. Anderson. I mean, this is a guy that in this offense, they're going to run the ball a lot because Trevor Siemian is going to game manage more often than not. He's going to want to control the clock, get in the end zone. Trevor Siemian can absolutely make some throws to win Denver the game. I have no question about that. But they're going to want to rely on their defense and their running game because that's what's going to travel for them. So C.J. Anderson is going to just be a huge play if you have him. Jamal Charles, I'm not a big fan of. I just don't know what he's going to be. So I like C.J. Anderson a lot this week, and I would play him in a running back probably 2 spot at best because I think that's his ceiling this week, and he's going to have some success against Dallas.
I'm starting both Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders this week. I'm starting C.J.
This Dallas secondary is not great. It took a step backwards.
Yeah, and don't buy into the Dallas defense from last week because they played the Giants. They were lethargic on offense. They did not have Odell Beckham Jr., and they just looked really bad. So don't buy into the Dallas defense yet. Trevor Siemian, I'm with you. You can't buy into him as a fantasy football quarterback. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, I'm probably starting Trevor Siemian just because he did show you that he can at least play good enough football. They are at home, so I do feel confident starting in there. I'm sitting the defense this week. Why? Because you have to be able to score points on defense. I know you love this Denver defense, and so do I.
I do, from a football perspective, but fantasy, I don't.
Fantasy this week, to score points for defense, you need to create turnovers.
And I just don't know if you're going to do that against Dak, who doesn't turn the ball over.
They don't turn the ball over.
Zeke doesn't fumble.
Nope.
There's not going to be a lot of sack opportunities because the offensive line for Dallas is really good. So, yeah, you may get points at the end of the day, but I don't think there's a lot of opportunities for points. So you're really going to be striving for just like making something happen.
Yeah, there are better options.
A lot of better defenses this week.
You could go for like a Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense who's going to score some points.
Baltimore's
defense. You keep Denver, you stash them because you love them on a usual week-to-week basis just for what they're able to do. But against that offense, they're not going to score a lot of points.
Oh, yes, this matchup.
Green Bay and Atlanta Falcons. Sunday Night Football. All of the points, baby. Give me all the points. Give me all the offensive points. Give me all the fantasy points. Let's start with Green Bay. These teams squared off last year with the totals of 65 points in each of these games. What does that mean? Aaron Rodgers is going to score a lot of fantasy points. Jordy Nelson is going to score a lot of fantasy points. Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, Ty Montgomery, this could be his breakout week where he just has an unbelievable game based off of what we saw Atlanta not able to do last week against Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard. Chris, what do you like most about this matchup?
I like for Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be happy because they played against Seattle at home and they struggled. They did not play very well in that performance. And Aaron Rodgers has too much talent offensively. There's too many pieces around him for him to not have a better game here in week 2. Atlanta's defense is not as good as Seattle's. Aaron Rodgers is, you're playing him no matter what each and every week. But as Paige said, I'm playing Ty Montgomery. I'm playing Jordy Nelson. I'm playing Randall Cobb. I'm playing Devontae Adams. I think the potential for these guys is incredible this week because I just don't know how the Falcons are going to be able to stop anybody. I really don't. So they're all a play. The only thing I'm not playing on this team is the defense. Literally it.
And Martellus Bennett.
You're not a Martellus Bennett fan this week.
I'm not starting Martellus Bennett, and I'll tell you why. He, on a week-to-week basis, is going to be a guy you look at to start. But this week, Martellus Bennett is a guy that's going to be used as a blocker because Brian Beluga, awesome name.
That's really good.
He has flu-like symptoms and isn't going to be playing for Green Bay on that left side. So they're going to line up Martellus Bennett as a blocker to help alleviate that, to make sure that Aaron Rodgers has time in the pocket to throw the ball because that's what he likes to do. But I'm starting Jordy Nelson. I'm starting Randall Cobb. I'm flexing Devontae Adams. I'm definitely always starting Aaron Rodgers, but I am not playing this defense this week because they're playing the Atlanta Falcons. And Chris, what do you like most about the Atlanta Falcons? Because there's a lot to like.
Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Taylor Gabriel, Mohamed Sanu, Freeman, Coleman, you name it, they should all play this week. Green Bay's defense had one good performance against the Seattle team that has a poor offensive line. I need to see it again from them. And Matt Ryan at home is going to want to play better than they played in week 1 offensively. They're opening up that stadium. They're on the turf. That means more speed for them. So I am playing everybody you can. The only guy I'm not playing is, the reason why is because do not buy into the Austin Hooper hype. Because he only touched the ball on 4.3% of the snaps that he was out there for. What does that mean to me? Big plays. Busted coverages. He got lucky. Don't buy into him being able to put up that type of production each and every week. You sit him, find a much better tight end option that's a better matchup for you, but play everybody else on the Falcons offense this week.
Yeah, I feel confident starting Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Devontae Freeman. I'm flexing Coleman. I'm sitting their defense, and I'm sitting Hooper. And I know we like this defense, but they might be able to sack Aaron Rodgers a few times this week, but they're not going to be able to give you enough points because Aaron Rodgers is going to score a lot of touchdowns, and that's going to take over those maybe few sack totals that you get and few points. There are a lot better options this week. So if you're watching this game, I think there's a lot to love fantasy-wise from everybody, with the exception of the defense.
Track meet.
Yeah, track meet.
Run up and down.
Back and forth. It's going to be a lot of fun, the opening of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm definitely going to be watching Sunday Night Football. Now, this is Monday Night Football. This is we're wrapping up the show, the last matchup here. This is the Detroit Lions and the New York Giants. The New York Giants, the biggest question mark here, okay, is Odell Beckham Jr. going to start? Is he going to start? Here's the thing. He comes out in the media and says 6 to 8 weeks. That his injury could have been 6 to 8 weeks.
It's a 6 to 8 week injury, yet here he is in week 4 of the injury ready to play.
Okay.
Doesn't inspire confidence.
Does not inspire confidence. So if you're looking at Odell Beckham Jr. in a start or a sit situation, this is what I would tell you. If you feel confident, if you want to take the chances of starting Odell Beckham Jr. this week, you better have somebody offensively from either the Detroit Lions or the New York Giants that you can have on your team.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. So you better have 2 wide receivers starting, and in your flex position you have Odell Beckham Jr. because even if he does play, this injury is more serious than I think people let on, and now we're getting that from him in the media. He's tweeting out, I don't care about your fantasy football teams. You know he's...
I don't care about you, Odell Beckham Jr.
Odell's a bit
All right,
of a
how
diva.
about that?
Okay, he's a wide receiver.
How
wide
about that?
receivers are divas. We know, okay, yeah, Chris does not care about you.
You know what?
Odell,
I don't have you in any of my
okay?
leagues, so good.
Yeah.
My fantasy team doesn't include you.
Okay,
Ah.
but Odell Beckham Jr. is owned in 100% of leagues, so we need to tell you this. If you are starting, if you're going to try and take Odell and you're like, I just don't trust anybody else,
Just
that's
have
fine.
the safety blanket.
That,
Just have
you
the guy.
Shane Vereen,
Yeah.
Eric Ebron,
Sterling
Shepard, Kenny Galladay, any of those guys, because you cannot afford to put somebody in there and get 0 points.
Yep.
Cannot do that. That is a bad strategy for fantasy football. So if you are going to try and risk it and play Odell, you better have a backup guy that you
just
like.
be prepared. Don't be that guy that just has Odell and it's like, oh, he's not playing now. I just don't have a player.
Yeah. Then we don't feel bad for you. Like Chris, that was on your team sucks.
Yeah.
That spent $285 on.
Hey Chris, how's that going for you, buddy? You
How's
spent
that going, bud?
$285 on a guy that's probably not going to play the first 2
If you
weeks
want to
of the
see that
season.
Your Team Sucks segment, you
should
go to
check that out.
FanRag Sports YouTube channel and watch that episode. But Chris, what do you like about the Lions?
I like the fact that they're probably going to use the tight end a lot this week in Eric Ebron because this is a matchup where the Giants' defense is really good. So I'm not playing Matt Stafford this week. I have him in a league. It's him and Jameis Winston. I'm sitting him down this week. I'm playing Jameis just because that Giants defense is really good. As much as I love Matt Stafford, I don't think he can put up enough points. But Eric Ebron's going to be a guy that I keep an eye on for. If Matt Stafford does have success, it may be for that over the middle with him and Golden Tate. Jason Witten had a really good game against the Giants last week. I think that may be good news for Eric Ebron and Golden Tate. I'm not playing any of the Detroit running backs because they were not able to establish their running game last week against the Cardinals, which is another good defense. So the only things I'm playing are Tate, Ebron. I would consider flexing Kenny Galladay, maybe as that safety blanket option if I have Odell Beckham Jr. But other than that, I'm sitting everybody else.
Yeah, this backfield is a mess, much like we've been talking about a lot of NFL
It's
teams.
Garbage.
Abdullah, my boy from Nebraska, 18 touches in week 1 and just 41 total points.
Speaking of Nebraska, how'd they do yesterday?
Chris, be quiet.
They lost to Northern Illinois.
Riddick might be worth a shot in a deeper PPR league, just based off the fact that he's used out of the backfield. And so if you are in a 16-team league like I am, where you might need a PPR player in a flex position, he might be worth it. I'm starting Tate. I'm starting Ebron. I'm flexing Galladay. I'm sitting Jones, Stafford, in the defense this week. The Giants, other than Odell Beckham Jr.
What else are you playing?
I
defense?
hate their defense.
That's about it.
And that's it. Because their offensive, Eli Manning looked horrible in week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to overreact, but he looked bad last season. So this isn't like we're watching and just overreacting to one game. He struggled last season, and this is a continuation into this season that he's just not able to get the ball out. Is Brandon Marshall actually on the team?
He might be.
He just didn't show up, wasn't a part of that offense at all. You don't like pretty much anybody here. Odell, if you're going to start him, like we said, you got to have a backup guy like a Shane Vereen would be the guy that I would have as the safety blanket this week. Chris, when you look at the Giants, what do you like? Because there isn't very much to like.
No, there isn't. If Odell's a go, you play him, right? I mean, he's going to have a huge game if he's out there and he's 100%, so you're playing him. Shane Vereen in a PPR league is interesting to me. I'm not a huge Shane Vereen guy, but he may have a lot of success this week against the Lions. But other than that, Sterling Shepard's a guy that stands out to me. I'm really high on Shepard this year. Maybe the defense, maybe. I just look at this team, and it's just a lot of maybes. And when I'm trying to win a fantasy matchup every week, I can't have too many maybes in my lineup. I need to have sure things, and none of these guys, even Odell Beckham Jr., doesn't stand out to be as a sure thing right now. That concerns me.
Yeah, I'm starting Odell Beckham Jr., like I said, with the clause. You got to make sure you have a safety blanket. I'm starting that defense. I'm flexing Vereen in a PPR league only because of what he can do out of the backfield, and I'm sitting Marshall and I'm sitting Shepard until I can see if Eli can do something here, because you got to be in wait-and-see mode with this team. the Detroit Lions looked pretty good defensively against the Arizona Cardinals last week.
They got after the quarterback.
Yeah.
And if they're able to do that against the Giants, that spells trouble for Eli. And that means bad
Not gonna
throws,
be very
which means
good.
picks, it means fumbles, it means sacks. It just means bad things for Eli if you're an Eli owner. So I would look elsewhere this week at quarterback.
All right, Chris, any parting thoughts before we end the show and get ready for kickoff in less than 30 minutes? So make sure you are setting your lineups. Do not forget.
Set your lineups. Yes, we made it through a whole show.
Yes.
And we didn't have as much controversy as the Triple G Canelo Alvarez fight. So there you go. That's my parting thought.
My parting thought, off of what Chris said, boxing is rigged. So I mean, that's just what happens. I know I got a lot of angry tweets about it last night.
Twitter was on fire last night.
Twitter was on fire last night. But parting fantasy football.
Set your lineups.
Set your lineups. I got a lot of people who started people like Devontae Parker last week who wasn't playing a football game.
That's how many points he got.
Yeah. 0. Pay attention to Odell Beckham Jr. I just feel like this screams catastrophe to me because I know people are going to start him and they're not going to remember to keep their safety blanket. So listen to us, listen to Chris, listen to me. Make sure you have a safety blanket. But for Chris Schubert, I'm Paige Dimakos. This has been Pigskin with Pancakes. See ya.